What's up, boys? Happy to see everybody again for another episode of the Blind Pig Podcast, courtesy of bgobsession.com. Clearly, you can see I am on location at the beach. I am blending in with the burgundy and gold, doing my part to, wear the colors through and through. But before we get rolling after our post-draft analysis, we'll hit up, obviously, give us a like, a follow, and a share. If you've been here before, we really appreciate you. You know the drill. If you've never been here before, always know you can find us on youtube.com, all major audio podcast platforms, as well as on all major socials, and, of course, at the mothership, bgobsession.com. So come hang out, mix it up. We got a good game day chat. Chat was rolling this weekend during the draft. There was a lot of activity there. I think our draft thread now has some stupid number of pages to it. So jump into the discussion. There's a lot of activity. But, fellas, before we get into the draft, a couple things to touch. First thing is the stadium deal. Apparently, the plan is a $3.7 billion, billion with a B, deal to build a new stadium at the RFK site. It's got the support of Mario Bowser. It's got the support of the team. It's got the support of Roger Goodell. It's got the support of, I believe, at least 4 or 5 council members. I don't think it's gone to the vote yet, but they had a press conference yesterday. The team, well, let me rephrase. We'll start there. The team will be putting up $2.7 billion towards this stadium. The city itself will be coming up with around $1 billion. I think it's at just shy of $1 billion, but this is the largest. If I'm remembering correctly, this is the largest private investment by a team to cover towards a stadium. I want to say most of them, the newer stadiums, the municipalities have eaten the majority of it, but now they don't have to. So I imagine there's not going to be too much pushback. But Commanders are coming home to DC. That's been the mantra for this entire push is bring the team back home, bring them home, welcome home. So what do you guys think if this is out? Now I think now they're actually like putting ink to paper now to make this thing the real deal here. So it's a little more serious than it was a couple weeks ago.
So second largest.
Go ahead,
Kroenke put in pretty much all $5 billion to build SoFi. There was a bunch of infrastructure stuff that the city of Anaheim, was it Anaheim or is it, I forget which city they're in, but whatever city they're in, there was some infrastructure costs. But as far as the stadium, Stan Kroenke and Kroenke Entertainment Group, who owns the Rams, or Sports and Entertainment Group, whatever, built that out of pocket. But otherwise, you are correct. This is the second largest private investment in an NFL stadium by the team. I went digging today because, like you, I thought it was the biggest. So,
I'm going to make you talk next, Tony.
Oh yeah, I mean, even if it's second biggest, that's still great. And ultimately, it's the goal everyone wanted is to be back in DC. So, only good things.
I was kind of ambivalent about the RFK site, but I also recognize that I live in North Carolina now, so I'm not as sentimental about it. But I think that's what most fans want, and I'm all about after 30 years of fans not getting what they want. Even if I don't care personally about it, I'm happy because I think that is by far was the fan sentimental favorite. So I did hear a little tidbit today. I guess Josh Harris did some kind of a sit down with Brett Baer of all people, and he asked him if it would be called RFK still or again, I guess. And he said Josh Harris seemed to be saying, yeah. Why not? I mean, that's who we were. That's where we were. That's where it's going to be. So we might be looking at RFK again, literally. Although I don't know if anyone in the Washington organization watches our little podcast, but if they do, there's a lot of sentiment about naming that some part of the stadium after Joe Gibbs. So we would love. We're putting in our bid for RFK with Joe Gibbs Field as the new place. But
the other thing is if they name it RFK, it's going to be temporary until there's a corporate sponsor that buys in.
Exactly.
It'll be ultimately, I think within a couple of years, it could be something like Joe Gibbs Field at Northwest Stadium. Like something where there is the you pay homage to Gibbs, but it's also paid for by a corporate sponsor.
Yeah, it might not be Northwest because I think that was a pretty short deal they signed. But
I just using that
anyway,
as an example.
I know,
It
I
could be
get your point.
Southwest for all I care. I really don't care.
The only other comment I wanted to make is, they were putting out, and I don't want to say the media guys were putting out that slick glass ceiling, really modern looking version of the stadium. And I have no idea whether that's just some concept or something they found on the internet, or if that's actually a plan that's been submitted. I saw today there was one that was really intriguing. It almost looked like the Jefferson Memorial on the outside. It looked like it would fit right in with the monuments in DC. So I don't know. I don't know where they are. That'd be one question I would like to ask is how have we actually got plans? Have we decided on architectural plans, or are we just starting that process?
I believe I read earlier today, or it might have been late yesterday, that is not a true rendering of the plan. That is just a concept to kind of put out there, that they have not officially had any renderings towards the actual stadium design, because I don't even think they know yet, because the way they were talking is there's going to be retail facilities, there's going to be bars and restaurants in the area and hotels and even housing to the point. So I don't think it's going to be a standalone stadium. I think the stadium is going to be a part of the whole joint, so there's going to be more engineering and design going into it than what we've already seen. But I would love to see a glass roof. That'd be kind of cool,
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be some kind of dome or retractable dome so they can get the Super Bowl and other events.
That's one of the things that somebody brought up in the thread. They were like, in our stadium thread at BGO, they were like, I don't understand why this is going to take 5.5 years. SoFi took 4 years, groundbreaking to opening. Why would this take 5.5 years? Well, take 5.5 years because groundbreaking to opening does not take into account things like architectural design and engineering. And my guess is they're going to open it up to bids. There are a fair number of architectural firms out there in the world that specialize in this type of thing. It would be a big feather in somebody's cap, obviously, fairly high profile, being in Washington, D.C., all of, 42 city blocks from the White House and the Capitol building. But a couple of the one that I know is just a concept that I thought was really cool, going back 3, 4, 5 months ago, was building the whole thing out of timber frame, not a single piece of steel in the building. And while it doesn't fit in with DC architecture the way the neoclassical design you're referencing, John, fits in, I thought it was a really cool idea as far as sustainability is concerned. And I can totally see the Harris Group being concerned about the optics of all that kind of stuff that goes into it as well. Not just creating a stadium, but a stadium that fits into some type of a sustainability plan and all the rest of, I don't know, whatever political buzzwords you want to throw out there. I'm guessing they will pay attention to.
But they haven't yet perfected the Bud Light wooden container yet. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Wow. Okay.
Hey, you guys, Derek and Tony, since you're local, I got to ask a ignorant question. Have they actually demolished RFK? Is it gone yet?
Mm-mm.
I didn't think so. I thought
that was going to be my kind of point, though. Also, with 5 years, they've got to clear the site. You know what I mean? And there's going to be limitations on clearing that site based on noise ordinances and the fact that you're in the middle of a residential area,
right? And traffic, right?
Right. So it's not like they can just sweep it into a bucket and carry it off. there's going to be a lot that goes into the actual clearing of the site. Plus, nobody has even said what is actually going to happen with the DC Armory. Like, is that going to remain, or are they going to demolish that also? Because that's right there. Like, that's another 50,000 square foot facility that right now they're using for conventions and flea markets. So who knows?
Yeah. I heard some cryptic comments about preserving some historical aspects of the area. So I don't know whether that would pertain to something like the DC Armory or not. But yeah, so they have a lot of decisions to make, I guess, and a lot of work to do.
And the other thing is, I don't know if you guys watched the press conference yesterday. Mario Bowser said she was asked about some questions about the DC government and owning. She said, "We will own the 2 parking garages." So, like, parking garages you can't build those things like, you know what I mean, out of Lincoln logs. Like those, I mean, there's especially in a situation where you're in DC, where you're on the Bank of the Anacostia, you're talking about being able to make sure that you can actually put down the sustainable foundation to build up around that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to be going into it beyond just, stacking a couple parking spaces on top of each other. So, well, as we now we can get to the true football things, and before we the draft, kind of a big transaction today, one that a lot of people have kind of been waiting for, but Zane Gonzalez released in favor of Matt Gay, the kicker, given a 1-year deal that was worth up to like upwards of $4 million. I mean, you don't pay that guy $4 million for competition. He's the plan, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. You know what I mean? That kind of money, you're investing that kind of money in a kicker. That's your plan for 2026. You might bring in a guy who could be on a practice squad, but you're not bringing in competition to try to beat him out for a starting job when you're giving up that kind of money for a kicker. So something a lot of people have wondered if we were going to address that situation in that position.
I was really excited to see that, man, because I think he's a definite upgrade. And people are like, well, he only, quoting stats from 2024. 2024, he didn't miss an extra point, or in his down year, he did not miss an extra point or a field goal less than 50 yards. Hit every single one of those. He was like 33% on 50 yards and out. But if you look back, I went today because that made me nervous. I went back and looked at his 5 previous seasons. He's 25 of 36 from 50 and beyond for the rest of his career, which is almost 70%. That's pretty good for long field goals. So I'm not worried about that at all. I think somebody said that he may have had he had some kind of a hernia repair prior to 2024 season, and that maybe that had a little bit to do with that. I know I just had hernia surgery last year, so I can't imagine that it didn't have a little something to do with.
I mean, you're not back to kicking 50-yarders with ease right now, buddy?
I'm back, baby.
I'm not booming kickoffs.
But anyway, I was excited because I nothing against Gonzalez. He got it done in tough circumstances, but I just didn't feel super. I don't think the team felt super comfortable. In fact, Adam Peters said that on the longer field goals, they wanted somebody with a stronger leg and that they could count on. So I think that's why they went with this guy.
Yeah, we just need someone consistent. So
I'm not sure it matters with how often we go on 4th down. So
yeah, but you start to have the question is the frequency of 4th down in contrast with the confidence in the kicking game. You know what I mean? Like, would we have gone for as many 4th downs and got them? But would we have gone for as many of them if we had more confidence in our kicker?
Yeah, and I understand that argument, but I think after you did it last year and you did it so successfully last year, you kind of established an identity.
Yeah.
And I feel like changing that is, I don't know, counterintuitive to me. We proved that you can go out there and be successful going for it a ridiculous amount of the time. I'd rather have 7 than 3 all day long. And if I'm going to get 7 2 out of 3 times, that's 14
I don't
points.
think it's an identity thing at all, man. I know what you're saying, but I think the fact that we were in nail biters every week, where we had to be aggressive, and I feel like this year, the next couple of years, we're going to have a lot stronger team where we're maybe able to get a lead and sustain it, so that it's not like a life or death decision every time on third down whether we go for it or not. I do like it, though. I agree with most of what you said. I just think some of that was we were in tight games and we're like, we're going to go down swinging if we go down. And that was kind of Quinn's mentality.
No, and I totally understand that, John. And I'm not necessarily arguing against it. What I'm saying is that maybe that was why we did it then, but now we've got a blueprint for success. I don't want to futz with the blueprint too terribly much, because it seems to me like the players responded to the whole concept of anywhere on the field, we're going for it. And we still have Daniels under center.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I think we'll still be aggressive. But now our kicking specialists are way gay.
Way gay.
Not
that there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
Let's
no.
Yeah.
No. Now we need a
great discipline in holding on to that.
Oh yeah, I was waiting for that.
We need a long snapper named Hay, so we can have Hay way gay. Or 2. He could be 2.
Yeah.
Way gay 2.
We're way too gay. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
I had to write that down.
Yeah.
So on that note, our draft picks.
I don't think it's recoverable, Derek.
here's the most shocking part, I should say. Well, to me, the most surprising part of this entire draft was the fact that we didn't make any moves. I would not have bet that going into this draft. I figured we would have traded down at some point. And Adam Peters was asked about it, round 1 and round 2, if we considered trading down, and he said there were opportunities to trade out around 2, but they said if Trey Amos was on the board, they're taking Amos. There's almost nothing anybody can give up to make them do that. So they got their guy. They believe so. Round 2, Trey Amos, they had him as a first round talent. There were conversations that they could take him at 29. That they might have taken him at 29 if Connerly wasn't there, because they didn't expect Connerly to be there. So they're extremely excited. They think they got 2 first-round players, 2 first-round talents in the top, between our first 2 picks. So round 1 is Connerly, round 2 is Trey Amos, round 4 is Jalen Lane, wide receiver, Virginia Tech. Round 6 is Kane Medrano, who is just an absolute burner, 4.46 40. Had the fastest 40 time of any linebacker at the combine. And then round 7 is a running back by the name of Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt out of Arizona. A guy that missed last year, I believe, because of an injury. The year before, I think he ran for over 1,100, if I'm not mistaken, in double-digit touchdowns.
I think it was eligibility. It wasn't even an injury. It was the NCAA eligibility thing, where some rival turned him in and made an issue of how many games he had played previously, and so he wasn't hurt. It was just an eligibility thing.
ESPN says confusion over his red shirt freshman year.
Right.
So,
what do you guys think of the draft? How do you feel? Obviously, the biggest glaring thing that jumps off the page is we did not draft an edge rusher, and even though there were guys there. Mike Green was there when we went off the board at 1. He slipped. We could have made a move to move back up in the second round a little higher. Ends up going to Baltimore, which, by the way, I think is about the perfect fit. You know what I mean? Like that, he's going to just be an animal there if he has his head on straight. Pierce was available later into the first round, some other guys. But I like our draft because at the end of the day, I think they did not let anything tell them. They did not look at anything through glasses of we have to. They went and they had a board and they followed the board and they picked the best players available. And I think they're confident that they don't have to do anything. You know what I mean? Like they're not handcuffed to any particular position and or need.
I think the biggest thing that jumped out at me is, once again, they clearly believe in the RAS score, and they clearly believe in drafting athletes, like superior athletes. I mean, you're talking about Connerly at 6'5", 311 pounds, running just over a 5-second 40-yard dash. I mean, having the best 10-yard split of any O lineman in the draft, and having like one of the best, if not the best, vertical jumps. The guy is like an athletic beast. He's only 21. And I know there's people like, oh, he can't seal the outside, or he can't he can't anchor. I've heard that all week, whatever that means. But I mean, he's only started 2 years. He allowed 2 sacks in 2 seasons. I think that guy's a beast. And if you just go down the line, Amos, a 4.43 40, really physical. I think Amos might be the steal of this draft for us, because I think he easily could have gone in the first round. And you said, like you said, Derek, they actually had him on the list with our first pick as a consideration. And then you just go right down the line. Lane, 4.3 440. He's a screamer. Home run threat guy that we got late.
And a very talented punt returner.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I watched some tape of him where it's like, if you don't get him, if he is able to escape the first tackle, he's gone. I mean, you better get him, because he can make a cut and be gone. Kane Medrano had the fastest 40. You said it, fastest 40 time of any of the linebackers at the combine. And I didn't know this, but Ken Norton Jr. was his position coach at UCLA. So we had a coach, his future coach, who knows all about him. And he's also a turnover guy. He had 3 forced fumbles and 2 interceptions in 2024. And he's also a special teams demon. And then Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, another 4.45 40-yard guy, very shifty. And, he's the only thing we don't know about him is whether he can catch the football. But as far as like being a speedster that could, do some damage,
they can break a play open. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just the thing that jumped out at me across the board, is every one of these guys is a really great athlete.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tony.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, they between last year's draft and this year's draft, you can see they definitely value speed, and like Derek was saying, they just stick to their board, regardless of specific need that fans or media perceive. If they think a guy is too good to pass up, they're just gonna draft the guy. And they also value their job fair they do at Top Golf, because both years they pick guys that go to their Top Golf job fair. They also pick guys that go
job fair. I like that.
Yeah. And they also get guys also from the Senior Bowl or like the Shrine Bowl, like the 7th round running back. He was the MVP of one of those All-Star games too. So they factor those things in. But yeah, above everything else, I think the overall athletic score, and that, just like you guys are saying, they really value athletes. So even with Kane, for example, even if he doesn't pan out as a three down type of linebacker, he can always replace Nick Bellore in special teams because he's so fast. And once Nick Bellore ages out, he can just slide into that kind of role. So
go ahead, Bob.
you know, when I was reading through stuff about the picks, all I could think of was before the draft, all the talk was, are the Commanders going to go offense or defense? What do they do with this draft? You know, we need to put it. I'll tell you what they did. They did speed. It's very reminiscent of Jimmy Johnson in the early 90s, where he drafted guys for speed and not a lot else, in all honesty. I mean, you know, I was living down here and people were scratching their heads over some of the picks that Johnson made. And those speed guys, especially on defense, turned into a rabid defensive unit that you couldn't get away from because you couldn't run away from them. You know, sideline to sideline, and vertical speed was just incredible. And that's very much what this feels like. You know, I know a couple of things. Mel Kiper is mad at us for not taking Sanders with at least 4 picks. Apparently doesn't think we know how to draft quarterbacks. Granted, we're in good company with 31 other teams, but and I've seen a number of national draft guys talk about Amos as a dude that could have gone in the first round. So it's not just Washington people thinking that we got away with 2 first-round draft picks. There's a lot of national guys that like make their living off the draft, talking about the fact that we got 2 guys that both could have been in the first round. I love the fact that we lean straight into a unit that we put a lot of effort into already in the offseason. I mean, you pick up Tunsil and you turn around and pick up Connerly. Now we're looking at potentially Coleman playing left guard, I guess, next to Tunsil.
Or right guard until Cosme comes back.
Yeah, I was thinking long term, but yeah, no, absolutely. He could slide into that right guard slot until Cosme's healthy enough to play again. So and that gives you 2 guys who started last year in Allegretti and Wiley as your 6 and 7 guys. For veteran presence in terms of you know, backup and fill in and whatever else. You know, it just feels like a unit. It feels like we drafted this year with an eye to what we have to beat, and that's Philadelphia. You know, you stop and think about it. You look at what Philadelphia did in the NFC Championship game, where they just and then the Super Bowl, where they just their defensive line just absolutely feasted. And then you look at the receiving core that we have to play again in Philadelphia. And we went out and directly addressed the positions that have to play against Philadelphia's biggest strengths. And we did it early, and it, by all appearances, did it well. I'm kind of excited about it.
We also in this draft and since then, up till today, we boosted our special teams quite a bit, man. You got Lane, who was a punt and kickoff returner at Virginia Tech. Really good kickoff returner, averaged 22 yards of return, 10.9 yards on punt returns with 2 touchdown returns. And then you've got Medrano, who's on the other, you know, on coverage duties, is a special teams beast. And then we signed Gay. I think that's a pretty significant boost to special teams on top of the guys that we've already talked about. I just am really excited about. It's kind of a weird thing, right? Because we didn't draft anyone that like is going to get us the sexiest, you know, draft grade. Like nobody saw coming. Kind of the picks that Philadelphia seems to specialize in, where everyone's talking about it the next day. We just draft, like you guys have said. I think the highest rated guy on our board, and drafting athletes and we haven't mentioned this, but solid citizens. None of the guys we drafted have any kind of controversy. They're all team leaders, solid citizens. Coaches rave about them. So I don't want to say they've got the commander's card or whatever, but they probably did, you know, in terms of the scout assessments.
Agreed.
So to that point, I agree with everything. We also need to talk about the undrafted free agents that we've since signed. And I'll run down the names real quick. Sorry. Fentrell Cyphus, Cypress, DB, Florida State, Tim McKay, O lineman, NC State, people who think he could challenge to be. He's not a camp body. That guy could has a legit shot at the final 53.
They wrote him like a $275,000 bonus check, signing bonus check.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy for an undrafted guy. So, yeah.
Ricky Barber, defensive tackle, Central Florida. Trey Rucker, safety, Oklahoma State. Robert McDaniel, safety, Jackson State. He's another one that a lot of people are saying that guy could make it. He could end up working his way up and making the final 53. Carlin Vigors, defensive back, Louisiana Monroe. Jacoby Jones, wide receiver, Central Florida. Keegan Jones, running back, UCLA. Actually, sorry, I'll come back to them. Ali Cajo, linebacker, UCLA. Ja'Cory Brooks, wide receiver, Louisville. 6'3", 195. That kid's a burner. He also has experience on kick returns. Cam Arnold, linebacker, Boston College. And then in addition to that, they have invitations out to Colin Schley, quarterback, Virginia Tech. Gabe Taylor, who we can talk about in a minute. Sean Taylor's little brother, safety out of Rice. Keegan Jones, running back, UCLA. Maurice Smith, O-line out of Florida State. Those guys are getting rookie camp invites to come in for a workout. So in addition to our 5 draft picks, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 guys that they're looking at, and I believe 10 or 10 of them, they've actually signed as UDFAs. So again, there's additional reinforcements coming in other areas of the team that. And again, it comes back to there's no edge rusher. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder how much of these guys, they're looking schematically and saying, even if there's a guy we might have liked, like Mike Green, they don't see him as a fit schematically, and or they don't want to deal with the headache. Who knows? But I think they're going to be creative, and they're going to be unique about figuring out ways to get that pressure, even without a premium edge defender.
So I don't know if you guys heard it, but at one of the pressers, post-draft pressers, Lance Newmark was asked about the edge thing and asked some other questions about why they did what they did. And I think he said something along the lines of that free agents still available informed their draft. So I kind of took that as maybe code for we're going to fill the need that everyone thinks we aren't paying any attention to, i.e. edge rusher, maybe with somebody that's still out there. So I don't know whether that's Henriksen, or I'm trying to think of who the other guys. So Von Miller, I've heard thrown out there. Zedarius, whose last name eludes me, but I bet Tony knows.
Smith.
Yeah. So I don't know whether one of those shoes will drop, because now I just don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're not done on that front. And I don't know I don't know a lot of these. I'm not going to pretend I know 3/4 of these undrafted free agents, but I mentioned in the last pod that I hope they would look at the historically black colleges and university players, because there's so much talent out there, and they don't get showcased like players at big time programs get all that national attention. So sometimes they're kind of under the radar, hidden gem type. So I was excited. I think it was McDaniel, maybe, that was from Alabama. Was it Alabama State or Jackson State?
Jackson State.
He's another guy, Bob. I'm pretty sure they gave him guaranteed money.
3-year. It's Robert McDaniel. He got a 3-year deal worth $2,995,000. So
they, obviously they really like that kid.
Now, $180,000 is guaranteed, $30,000 signing bonus. I would imagine that's front loaded. So year 2 and year 3 are completely based on incentives and him being on the roster. But yeah, I mean, you're still
what that tells you is there were lots of teams that were after him, because that's the only reason you pay a undrafted free agent, upfront money, is if you're going to lose them if you don't, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool to see they, gave Taylor that signing for obvious reasons. That was cool. And with the undressed or free agents, we'll just see what happens. You never know. Most likely, anyone that makes a team it's for special teams. But we'll see how these guys pan out. So yeah, I think like Sam Hartman got a good deal last year too.
Yeah.
And he doesn't sniff the field, so we'll see what happens.
I think too, it's kind of injury insurance. If you start getting thin at a particular position group, then you've got guys that you can bring in they're probably on the street, bring them in and get them.
Or on somebody else's practice squad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then like Reeves was a undrafted free agent, and like Tyler Owens.
Tyler Owens, yeah.
Yeah. So some of these guys do make the team and make an impact, but time will tell. And that like the Louisville receiver is intriguing because he's really fast. He's got some size, and then he has production too. It's like over 1,000 yards. So
yeah, Ja'Cory Brooks. He was at Alabama, and then in 2025 or 2024, he had 61 catches for over 1,013 yards and 9 touchdowns. I mean, that's not exactly.
A while that we might have to specify which Ja'Cory.
Oh yeah,
which Ja'Cory you're talking about?
So, I'm kind of excited about it, honestly. I mean, and collectively across the draft, I think at a minimum they raised the floor again. And look, when it comes to Connerly, okay, we don't know what Tunsil's future is going to hold. He's going to be 31 years old. If you can get 3 or 4 years out of him, and now you're grooming Connerly that when you exercise his 5th-year option, he becomes your starting left tackle for the foreseeable future. I mean, that's not stupid. You know what I mean? Like that's a good problem to have when you're trying to have two guys fight over who's going to be your bookend tackle.
Yeah. And like Bob alluded to, it just upgrades your whole line because it allows you to put your best guys out there, because then Coleman could play one of the guard positions and your line's just better overall.
Yep, and then you've got tackle depth, a guy that has proven he can play the position. If something happens, God forbid, now you've got a right tackle, you can swing him out, and you've got more depth behind him. Can play guard.
I know. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, if the long-term plan is potentially Connerly moving into Tunsil's position, the second half of that plan may be Coleman moving into Connerly's position at right tackle. I mean, he's proven he can play tackle. He may be a great guard, but he might be a great right tackle too. The other thing that I haven't seen anybody talk about is all this money thrown into all this. Well, I shouldn't just say money because it's capital, right? It's draft as well as money. That we've thrown into the offensive line. At the end of last year, we had real problems running the football. And I think a lot of those problems running the football came from an offensive line that was not getting the job done up front in terms of opening holes. Maybe Brian Robinson turns back into a 4.5 yard a carry back again. Like he started the season out with a significant change up front. Granted, Tunsil is not known as a great run blocker. Connerly, however, came out of a tremendous running program in Oregon. So, just thoughts.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And I think one of the cool things about this draft, just like last season, it says something about your whole scouting and front department and front office when every one of your draft picks makes the team. Now, some people would argue that's because you had turned over 61% of your roster and it sucked. I mean, to be fair, that's an argument. But I think this year, it's highly likely all 5 of these guys are going to make the roster.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Including a 6th rounder and a 7th rounder. And that's not all that common for those kind of players picked in that part of the draft to make the roster. So
I take it a step further. I think you could potentially say that all 5 of these guys end up in the season with significant minutes versus their draft position.
Yeah, because you can see our 6th and 7th round pick being, even if they're rotational pieces, if you get anything out of them, that should be considered a win. I mean,
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
so boys, we have now gonna hit the dead spot of the NFL season. I believe we have rookie camp coming up next week, I think. So there might be some things coming out, but I don't think there's going to be earth-shattering. The boys were back at the facility this past week for OTAs. Some of them appeared at the Capitals game on Saturday or Sunday night, which was kind of cool to see. The quarterback room being together, and then the less publicized offensive line room being together was enjoyable to watch them all hanging out, picking up a hockey game. So I don't think we're going to see any big news. Maybe a free agent signing here or there over the next couple of weeks. But then again, I mean, we're only 8 weeks away from camp breaking, maybe 9 weeks.
Well, we got mini camp. I know because I put it up on the site on our countdown clock, but the full mini camp is June 10th through 12th, I believe. So we're like a month out from really starting to get some information on how are these guys looking and where are they playing them. I mean, that's one of my big questions you guys kind of alluded to is who's going to be where on that O-line when the season opener rolls around, because I think it could be a bunch of different possibilities. So that's going to be really interesting to watch. And I'm going to make a bold prediction. Amos starts on the outside opposite Lattimore. Mikey Sanristel is in the middle on start. And now I know they're going to rotate some, but I predict that's what's going to happen is they'll start him on the other side as a rookie and move Sanristel inside. That's just my uneducated gut guess.
So before we sign off, I do have to give brother Paul his flowers. He had some notes here. Connerly, starting tackle. Amos can contribute as a boundary corner and allow flexibility in terms of how Sanderson and Jones are used. That's another guy that nobody's talking about is the kid out of New England that we signed, Jones.
Yeah.
Where does he end up now? Lane, he's your 2025 potential starting pick, punt and kick returner. Someone who can be an extension of the run game with screens, yak, etc. Medrano, athleticism through the roof, which allows him to earn a clear role in coverage teams. And then cross-scheme merit adds juice to the running back room and can platoon with Robinson. He goes on to say it's easy to go out and get the best edge defender at the bottom of the first round because it's a need, but the fact that the guys at the position take time to develop and won't give you the potential year one impact that a combo of Connerly and Amos will at premium positions in tackle and corner. He said he thought it was really interesting, particularly in the 4th round when Lane was selected. In the 5 or 6 picks, and this is something we didn't talk about, but in the 5 or 6 picks prior to his selection, there was a run on edge defenders. Sawyer, Kennard, and Sorrell all went off the board to lead up to our 4th round pick. He said he's glad that they didn't force things and say, just let me take the best natural edge defender now. Instead, they went out and got a wide receiver because that's going to be the bigger impact on the team. The last kind of on a side note, Peters has now selected 4 guys that he has pumped the tires for and previewed over the last 2 draft cycles in our BGO podcast. Sinnott, Jean-Baptiste, Connerly, and Amos. He said, I think they're tuning in, boys. He said, Paul thinks he's watching the podcast. That's fun. Maybe they're higher on him in, as far like guys like Jean-Baptiste than most people are, than the general fan base. So that let's not shut the door on guys like that. So just a couple notes from Brother Paul, the Canadian Hog at BGO. Was somebody who's normally a part of a podcast, but he couldn't be here tonight.
Yeah, I think they're tuning in for Paul's comments and then turning off the rest of it.
That's right. Well, gentlemen,
I highlighted every HBCU star in America except McDaniel. So that tells you how insightful I am.
Well, we've got a few weeks before things start picking back up again. It'll probably be a slow time. We may jump on a podcast next week, talk about some of the other stories that are going on. Nothing huge outside of what we've already talked about today. So I
Derek,
imagine things will settle down and then they'll pick back up middle
I
of
did
May.
hear one nugget today is I guess Kime, I think, is the one who posted this, that there are no planned uniform changes for this upcoming season.
Yep.
At least
But there will be a throwback.
Hmm.
So we'll see what happens there. Maybe the throwback.
It'll be the
brings back-
Washington football team. That'll be the throwback.
The logo's been forgiven, so maybe the old Blackfoot logo ends up or a spear ends up coming up on the helmet. So
We'll see.
well, fellas, as always, if that'll do it, it's been an absolute pleasure. If you've made it this far, please hook us up with a like, a share, and a follow. Catch us on all the audio platforms, Apple, all of them, Spotify, all of them. And, of course, catch us at bgobsession.com, the original OG mothership, one of the last remaining message boards out there on the internet. I don't know if that's true, but we're going to talk about it like it is, based on the commanders at least. So we can, game day chats. We have chats going up, different contests, and a lot of good, fun stuff going on. So
who won our we just finished our draft contest, the on the clock contest. We got to give that guy a shout out. Anyone remember?
Yeah,
that?
hold on, I'll pull it up. Oh my gosh, I had the name in front of me a minute ago. Baines DC was the
Baines
winner.
DC dominated
Right.
the on the clock contest. So
Yep. So, all right, fellas. Well, it's been a pleasure as always, and as always, we'll end it the same way we always do every week and say, "That'll do, pigs. That'll do."